But the first screen that will come up is kind of like an overview of what we're going to be talking about tonight, where we've been. So in this first month, as I mentioned at the top of the hour, is talking about how to have living library conversations. So that's how we go from a competitive environment and creating a collaborative environment. So our first conversation 2 weeks ago was the law of divine oneness. And that is about really treating each other as equals, really treating each other as an expression, of God, source, universe, love, whatever you want to call it. And in order to change socioeconomic structure, will require some uncomfortable conversations. And how we collaborate with each other will make those conversations a little easier. And some of those questions are, well, what is our responsibility to somebody who consider themselves higher on the socioeconomic scale? How do we treat those who consider themselves lower? Um, if if we're changing the mechanics of finances, and my $1 will eventually cost the billionaire class $50,000, what feelings come up? Let's talk about that. What are our responsibilities to people who might have something to lose in this? What is our responsibility to someone who might have something to gain? And then the last question, which we really didn't go into, but I'm encouraging others to have this living library conversation, where if I asked you for a $25 loan that I needed in order to generate $1 million, let's have that conversation. Let's have that conscious conversation. If I make $1 million in 20 months with your $25 loan, how much of that do you feel entitled to? And you should feel entitled to a little bit, because that's where we start to talk about understanding. And then last week we talked about the law of gender, and we talked in metaphor. My challenge to the listener was, if there was a way where every single one of your ancestors from 20 generations, 1 million people, were somehow able to put $1 into a bank account for you to receive at a certain day and at a certain time, that would be $1 million, $1,048,576 to be precise. So that's a metaphor, but it's the closest thing to what we're going to be exploring here next month, when we talk about the time banking and we talk about implementing the universal basic income. Now, tonight is about the law of correspondence. And I'm probably going to have to do a voiceover recording on this, because I don't have the exact numbers here. But over the course of a 70-year lifespan, your cell, the cell that starts out as an embryo, will divide up and divide up and divide up, and eventually, over the span of a 70-year lifespan, your body will be comprised of about 510, 515 trillion cells. So so there's something in our DNA that knows how to replicate that, how to duplicate, how to create that kind of an abundance. So what these conversations are intended to do is to help you practice how to collaborate with each other, so that we create something out of that time, so that we make that time have value, because every single moment matters. I think, Christina, was it you that said this this past Sunday, that God is present in the moment, in the now? Did I hear you say that the other day?
Yes, it's been said that the present is the only place that God truly exists.
Okay, great. Yes. So what these living library conversations is bringing attention back to the now, and really treating the person in front of you, as your equal, as divine, as the most important element in life, because that's in the now. So what we'll be doing as far as changing what I call the psychological DNA is encouraging these living library conversations where if you are the human book, you are the one who is expressing, you are the one that's active, you are the one that is, that is kind of being the expansion component. And if you are the listener, if you are the reader, that is more of the feminine or the receptive component. And that is where you are holding space so that something can be created in that hour. And the intention here, and I'll mark this here in this conversation, is if we are encouraging others and if we are holding space and practicing these skills, we create something in every moment. We create something in every hour when we make that conscious decision, or sometimes it's not conscious, about whether or not we're going to be the creator or expressing, or if we're going to hold the space or the container. And that's what kind of changes the psychological DNA. And by asking everybody to pay that forward and practice being both the listener, both the reader and the book, this hour that we're recording here tonight can turn into 2 hours, and then 2 hours will become 4 hours. And then we reach that, that capacity that one person can generate, which is about 120 years, 120 years taken out of this, what I think of as exploitive, extractive entity, and start to grow a new organism. So I know that's as I'm trying to explain that here without my visuals, I'm going to edit those in here later after this conversation. But that is the point I would like to really drive home tonight, is that every single one of you, and every single one of you that's listening here, you don't have to be present here at this conversation at this time, but you are all representative of the original cell that can divide out and divide out and divide out, and eventually inspire others, to participate in this regenerative system. So I'm a little disappointed that I couldn't pull up my slideshow, but I'm going to work on that and work on my computer here in the next couple of days. So I want to practice having a living library conversation, but I want to give everybody a chance to have the ability to be both the book and both the book and the reader. And when we do that, when there's that natural flow where there is this dance between the active and the receptive, the yin and the yang, the masculine and the feminine, we go into what I think of as Kairos time. And that's where things start to flow very easily. It feels like time is nothing. I personally feel the presence of source, God, love, the universe in Kairos time. And that is, to me, the feminine expression, where the masculine expression is Chronos time. And that's where we're looking at the clock. Some of us might experience that as quote unquote lower vibrations, where we're nervous, we're angry, we're anxious, we're sad, or we're just counting down the time, and time seems to dilate. It seems like it's longer. I personally, I think of that as the masculine expression, because there's the archetype of Saturn, the taskmaster. Saturn is the lord of time. So I want to practice coming back into Kairos time and practice these living library conversations where we're listening, reflecting, and then asking a question. All right. So I'm going to ask everyone to take a breath. And I'm going to invite any one of you, whenever it feels right, to ask any question you want. Just ask any question you want. And then somebody else here present can respond. And then I'll coach the conversation from there. So I put you all on gallery view now. So this is your opportunity to ask any question you want. We have about 34 minutes to play this game. We'll probably only need 30 since we'll do a checkout at 4 minutes out. But now is your opportunity to ask anything you want and let the question come to you.
Might may I go?
Go for it. Go ahead, Hima.
Yeah. What's your take on being?
What is your take on being? Okay.
Yeah.
All right, great. So let's accept Himant's question. And whoever would like to respond, feel free to express yourself as much as you need to and go for as long as you need to, whatever's alive for you.
Can I respond?
Please do. Go for it, Edie.
Yeah, so first I want to make sure, because I hear the words, this is one of those, I hear the words, but I sense there's a nuance in this question. So when I hear the words, what is your take on being? I want to make sure I'm understanding this correctly. Are you asking, what is your take on being versus doing, on being present? When you say being, can I get clarity what you mean? Just so I can properly, because I think I know, but I want to make sure that I know.
Yeah. Thanks for pointing it out, Nini. I'm talking about in the sense of identity, being.
Okay, so the identity, as far as being in our human body as an avatar, what is that? What you're asking? Like, as a human being, who are we vis-a-vis in this whole cosmic game that we're playing?
Yeah. It more like of what label we name us, right? In that sense.
I'm sorry, can you say that again? What?
Yeah. Being, right? If I say something like, hey, I'm a honest person, it's we are labeling us as a being, right? Honest person in that sense.
Okay. So again, I just wanted to make sure I hit the nuance. So when it comes to being, a lot of times when someone asks, like, what do you do? And people say, oh, I'm a healer, or I'm a teacher, and I do this. And we say, this is what we're being. But those things point to, this is what we do. These are the hats that we wear. When it comes to a sense of being, I feel that that represents the Kairos time, in that it's not about a label that is placed upon us. It's just an energy that we carry with us. It's like when I interact with you, Harneth, I have a very warm feeling. So I can sit there and say, okay, you're a man, and it's now 4 o'clock in the morning. Those are things about like that. They're ideas, they're constructs that point to you, but they're not necessarily who you are being. They're an abstraction that replicates the sense of who you are, just like an infinite regress points to infinity, but it's not infinity. But the being is that shared correspondence, that when I speak with you or when I see you, I have like this warm feeling inside of my body. And that beingness lets me know the essence of who you are, as someone who's kind, as someone who wants to learn, as someone who's curious, as someone who's got a really good sense of humor, but tries to, be calm on the front type of a thing. Like those are the things that are shared in the relative space, that depending on who you're corresponding with, different aspects of your being will come forward. So if someone's like pushing you, you might show up as a little bit more of a tough being. And if someone's, open to who you are, they'll see the magic of who you are. But that beingness is more your essence, as the I am that's kind of behind the screen. And the doing is the hats that we wear as the avatar as we navigate this physical Earth space-time continuum. Does that make sense?
Yeah. What you are saying is the energy we sense from others while on communication, or that's what makes us being. Is that right, or I'm putting in wrong sense?
No, I think what it is, it's like, you're familiar with the different hemispheres of your brain. You have the right hemisphere and you have the left hemisphere. You're familiar with this?
No.
No. Okay, so there's a lot of really great books that talk about that the left hemisphere is very much into like abstraction, labels. It's associated with the masculine energy. It unpacks, it abstracts. And the right brain is that intuitive emotional. It doesn't necessarily make logical sense, but it just feels right. It's like, you take a look at something and you're like, I can't quite put my finger on it, but this doesn't feel fresh, even though it looks fresh. So it's like on a right brain to right brain, that beingness is something it cannot be broken down. It's just instantly, like in quantum physics, non-locally, I feel it beyond space and time. I feel you're a kind person, and that's like instant communication. I feel the energy of being, which is similar to the Kairos time. It's this shared space. Whereas, the way that people act and the abstractions that point to the being as a more esoteric type of a thing, that's more left brain, that's more compartmentalized, that's more information based, but it's not that same immediate, like I feel you, you feel me type of a thing.
Thank you, Needy. I'm gonna pause here, and I love that you're bringing in kind of like the brain geography into this as well too, because that's something that we're going to be exploring here in the next couple months as well too, because developing what I think of as the left brain or the masculine. That's where we have the safety and the curiosity, which I feel like the safety is overdeveloped, but the curiosity is underdeveloped. And over on the right side, we have the appreciation and we have the desire. I feel like the desire has been overdeveloped and the appreciation has been underdeveloped. So I wanted to put that footnote in. And now I would like to invite you to take a moment, reflect on everything you just shared, and I want you to spin your own question, ask your own question based on what you just explored for Christina or Charles to answer.
Just taking a moment to let that land.
Yeah, take as much time as you need. Yeah, you were very generous. You gave us a lot there. So whatever is the most alive for you that you want to pick out of that, form your own question and we'll keep the conversation going.
Yeah. So my question is, if that's the case, what can we do? What can we all do as a collective to step into the beingness of appreciation? If that the areas which there are lagging skills, just what I'm asking, kind of an open question for us all, is what is the next step that we feel we can do to facilitate those skills further so that we can develop more into the appreciation and the curiosity and step back from this need to know and this need to figure it out. I asked that question to myself and I ask it just collectively.
All right, so I'm going to open that up to Charles or Christina. What I'm hearing is, how do we develop the skills to practice curiosity or appreciation or both?
Yeah, and in the way that works best for you, because again, in asking this question, it's kind of like a double-edged sword, because we're going to sit here from our left brain masculine thought, oh, which strategies do I whip out to? No. This is not about results chasing. Like, how do we be present with ourselves to get out of that need to know and figure it out and just allow the process to unfold, to step into greater appreciation? So it's kind of like a catch-22 in that question. And these are the questions I ask myself too. So I'm including myself in this question.
Go ahead, Charles. You're on mute.
I would say for myself and from my experience, I go back to the contemplation, and I go back to not necessarily what we say, but how we are and who we are. In navigating, that need to know. Brings me to a place of of great pause and a place of, I'll say again, being. And being for me is going back to that, no matter what's going on, no matter anything around you, or can we be in that place of our natural innocence, of not needing to be anything. And not really needing to answer anything, but to be able to have the ability to be in the silence. And for me, that a lot of my questions get answered in that place of the silence, in that place of the quietness, in that place of, I guess, the ability to access that place, which is not always easy.
Wonderful, Charles. So I'm going to invite you to take a moment, reflect on what you had just offered, and then form a new question that Christina will respond to.
Yeah, and I think I'll ask a question around some of my struggles regarding relationship with other people, and not just an acquaintance, but someone who you may have a deep friendship with, or or it once was, and when those things change, the acceptance of what it is, or what how the change has come about. So that would be my question. How do you do that? How do you be in that? How do you find yourself in a place of the ability to work through it, but also to be open to what does that look like?
Hmm. Were you able to receive that question, Christina?
Yeah. Thank you. So I had the realization, so especially my close relationships, that they were a reflection of something, like everything else, of what I was projecting. I recognize cycles. I found this meditation. It was a year in review, and it was helpful for me to be an observer and actually look on top of things. And I noticed I was having the same experience with different bodies, same energy. My thoughts changed before my actions did. I knew better. I thought I wanted better. I thought I was doing better. But the results I was getting was the results I was getting was the actions that I was taking were still in a place of trauma, a place of experience. So I was fighting the same result. And that's scary. And yeah, it took a lot. And that's I don't know. Now I have great gratitude for all those experiences. We hear about forgiveness a lot, and I've heard it before in the recovery community. Somewhere along the way, like through the meditation and being mindful and being present, my forgiveness turned into great gratitude. For everything. I'm big into geometry and big into numbers and all that stuff. Divine order. divine timing. Everything is beautiful, and I just learned that my relationships reflected me. So I'm currently working on that. That other question was like beautiful. That's been my life the past year, working through all that. I don't remember exactly the question that was presented, but yeah.
Great. Thank you, Tina. So I'm going to give you a moment to reflect back or reflect to yourself what you had just expressed, and then you'll form a new question that I will respond to. And if you're speaking, you're on mute at the moment.
Sorry. So I'm wondering, have you noticed any of the? It's correspondence kind of. I've noticed the benefits. I don't know. I would like to hear if you've found any ways of noticing the cycles, using them to your benefit. I don't know. I think like awareness, like I know,
Cycles
like with
cycles
with every
within a relationship.
yeah. Are we sticking with relationships, or is it an open question?
Sure, I would love to go wherever you would like to take the question, Tina.
Yeah, I think relationships are like the uber most important because, um, right?
Yeah,
Because we all think we're different and we're just one. So how do we fix that?
yeah.
How about
Thank
that?
you.
You want that one?
Absolutely. Yeah. No, what comes up for me is my understanding, and this is something I've been exploring for the last couple of years, is understanding how a relationship develops through six conversations, through six different kinds of conversations, and being able to understand how to intentionally create, first of all, the appreciation conversation is the first conversation we work on. And that's what those are the skills we're doing here tonight, is just reflecting about what you appreciate, what you resonate with. If something doesn't make sense, asking the clarifying questions. So the purpose is not to compete. The purpose is not to interject an opinion or anything like that. It's just to receive, who that person is being. So if I notice myself getting into arguments, or if there's dissonance or dissent, I have to come back to, okay, am I doing my part to bring it back into appreciation? That's the foundation for me for everything. The next phase is the possibility conversation, and we explored that last week, where again, it's more just exploring what is the other person's intention. What do they want to what do they really want? That's where we started to go from appreciation into desire a little bit. What is it that you want? And also in that possibility conversation, we asked about what is it going to take, so that we can start to consider how this relationship might go. And you can have a relationship just staying in appreciation and possibility. You can go back and forth between that, and have a great relationship. It doesn't have to evolve beyond that. It's going to make a lot of business people and a lot of people who are very alpha type personalities very nervous and very uncomfortable. But if you land on a possibility that that seems agreeable, then the invitation conversation comes up, and that's where you're making a conscious agreement to say, hey, I will show up with this. If you show up with that, there's we can make that conscious agreement. There's consent there. And then what will happen, and this is really where the relationship gets tested, is the dissent conversation. And that's where you get really honest. You get really honest and authentic about what feels right and what doesn't feel right. And then you might have to go back and reframe the invitation. So yeah, so that's so that's where a lot of where I have to bring in a lot of my mindfulness, that if it starts to go into a dissent conversation, I have to go back to, well, what was the original invitation? What was the original agreement? And how did that come about? Did we practice appreciation and possibility enough, or did we not spend enough time there? So that's been very helpful for me. And then after dissent comes responsibility. That's when you're actually intentionally creating something together. And there's an inclusiveness, there's a free flow. Everybody is kind of holding up their end. It's a real collaboration, and then there's the commitment conversation, which really entails, you guys did something together. Now let's look back and look at what we created. So for me, understanding the cycle of the relationship comes back to, okay, what conversation are we having here? And are we ready to move on to the next conversation? And if not, that's okay. That's okay. Just how do we practice, how do we practice being in appreciation and curiosity? And that's what a living library conversation is. That's what an appreciation conversation is really just receiving what the other person is expressing and going deeper and exploring and being okay with not having attachment on how long that takes, because it's always going somewhere. It's always going somewhere. All right, so we are about 13 minutes before the end of our time together. Would anybody just like to offer up a reflection or a question now, based on everything that you've heard here in the last 20 minutes or so?
There was something that you had mentioned. It was it was in the end of your slideshow. You were talking about, Chronos time versus Kairos time, and this is something that I had wanted to say before, but then the focus had shifted.
Mhm.
So you had mentioned that you're comparing Kairos time to the feminine and the
Yeah.
Chronos time to the masculine, and you had also mentioned that the Chronos time you said might be like lower vibration, and I know, like, because we're trying to integrate more feminine, more divine feminine,
Mhm.
we tend to say that because the masculine that has really, I guess, overstepped its place. But what I
Yeah.
wanted to offer is, I don't feel that it's lower vibration. I just feel that, like, in order to know one complementary aspect, there has to be another complementary aspect. And obviously, if neither one of them is respected properly, it's not going to work. It's like the cherubim, like the cherubs are like, they're not facing each other, not because they have something wrong with each other, because with us as humanity, we've created so much dichotomy. So what I wanted to emphasize is, I don't feel that the Chronos time is of a lower vibration. The way I look
Mhm.
at it is someone, again, who's very self-educated, and when I or maybe I should say whole educated, because no one really learns things by themselves. So I'll say holistically educated. um what I found is the Kairos time is the creative drive. That's my
Mhm.
zone of genius. That is the desire to do something amazing, and the curiosity is to say go for it. But what I really have appreciated so deeply about the Chronos time is that it's what I call staying on track. It's the discipline. It's when I say willpower, I don't just mean willpower alone, because that fizzles. But
Mhm.
when willpower is coupled with that desire, the willpower just keeps you on track. So the inspiration is really, I want to draw this masterpiece, I want to do this art, I want to play this song, I want to go run this marathon. But what the Chronos time does is, it says, okay, but if you want to do that, you have to understand, you know, sunlight hours is when the path is available. So we need to go during the day. And then we have to stay on track with proper meal times and proper sleeping times. And we have to keep that according to the clock, to the um I'm drawing a blank on the circadian rhythm, so we can best honor our body, because that does work on a Chronos scale. So I look at it this way, is that the masculine energy is like the surface area. It's the boundary. It's like,
Mhm.
the line of the circle that we draw on the sheet of paper. But then the feminine is the volume. So if you have unbounded volume with no surface area, you're going to just have it kind of discombobulating everywhere with nowhere to go. But at the
Yes.
same time, if you only have the structure, that's all you have is structure, structure, structure. And it's empty, it's shallow, there's nothing in there. So it's this symbiosis of you have a structure, but you fill it with that creative life force energy and they work symbiotically. So when you had mentioned that, I wanted to speak to that. I didn't feel that the Chronos time or the masculine is of a lower vibration. It's just that is the vibration that has been so much, you want to say, abused or worshipped, that we've forgotten of the indwelling feminine spirit. And it's just an invitation to have the symbiosis, not to make one right or one wrong, but to have that flow of give and receive and correspondence.
Yep. Yep. Absolutely. And I do want to say too, is how do we make that a dance between the two entities and less of a power struggle? And when I say lower vibration, I don't want to imply a hierarchy, meaning that those feelings are somehow less than, you know, that. When I think of a lower vibration, I think of like a lower, like a denser frequency. You need that density to develop strength. And I definitely believe that. So yeah, so what I want to emphasize too is how do we honor both the Chronos and the Kairos time as we are looking at this dance between a need for structure and a need for freedom, and when is too much, and when is not enough of either structure or freedom.
So the way that I do that, actually, the
Mhm.
way that I do that is I say, okay, guys, what's the common goal? So let's just use the healthy lifestyle because it's a concrete example.
Mhm.
Kairos time and Chronos time both want to be healthy because
Mhm.
Chronos wants to, we want to live a long life, thinking longevity, health span, lifespan, and Kairos time is saying, yeah, I just want to be able to flow as much divinity as possible while I'm here. So get them to agree what's the common goal. And the common goal is we want to be healthy for as long as possible. So then
Mhm.
Kairos will be like, okay, so let's do the creative part, and Chronos will be, and let's stay on track with that. That's how I have done it. And I will literally have conversations with these parts of myself. When I do feel the power struggle, I'll say, okay, what's happening? We're having a power imbalance. I will literally say, okay, guys, what's the common goal? And then they both remember and say, by the way, thank you. They thank me. They say thank you. That's
Great.
literally a practice I do regularly.
Nice, nice. That's great, and I think that's awesome that you can have that conversation with yourself. It's kind of like calling the, I guess what Jill Bolte Taylor would say, calling the characters in for a huddle, being able to
Yep.
ask them,
I
what is, yeah, what is the common goal here?
exactly that.
Yeah.
I was literally thinking about citing that book, but I didn't know if anyone read it, so I didn't.
Very cool. All right, well, we are coming up to the end of the hour. So this is where I like to do a checkout. And the way I do my checkouts in the spirit of developing curiosity and appreciation is I like to go just around the room and ask everybody, what did you appreciate about our conversation here tonight? And what are you curious about exploring moving forward? What kind of curiosity has been sparked as a result of this conversation tonight? I'm going to start with,
Yeah,
yeah, go ahead, Hemant, go for it.
yeah. I appreciate what Mini has said in the previous conversation. The identity is the hat we wear. Uh, uh, we wear. Uh, the moment she put it in such a way that I think I misunderstood the whole concept of being and identity. So I will further explore that line. And what you said, Chronos and Kairos time, it's way new to me, and I'm also so curious what's that, and I will be exploring that. Yeah, thanks for the awesome call, Mike,
Great.
and
Thank you,
Nini
Hemant.
also.
Great. Thank you, Hemant. Can you pass it to somebody else and they will check out?
I
Why don't we
mean,
pass?
what?
Yeah, why don't we, you can pass it to anyone else in the room to check out. So you can pick somebody on your screen and they will
Yeah,
respond.
Charles, can you go
Charles,
ahead?
yeah.
Um, well, I always appreciate the opportunity. I'm very grateful for the opportunity in this platform. Um, and curious about the balance and the what Nina was talking about, bringing the two together in a relationship that is that honors both, and allows both. And you know, I've always sensed that kind of imbalance within myself or with other people that I've gotten to know, and never really had a grasp on, oh, okay, what do you do about it? Or, you know, and my inner place, my knowing place has always sent me back to nature. I'm not sure if that's a masculine or feminine, but I know that it's a balance. It's a commonality. I think it's, for me, I think it's some of both. So that's where my curiosity is going to be, that common balance of bringing them both together.
So, because it's
Let's
Nini
see.
or Christina.
Go to Nini.
Okay, so I'm going to start off with the gratitude, and I just want to thank everyone individually. So I want to start with giving Christina some gratitude for showing up exactly as you are, being that, you know, you had a phone call come in the middle or something, and, you know, being that you were able, that you took the car, you still made the effort to show up. I appreciated, you know, you had mentioned that you're into geometry and numbers, and I really appreciate Cheryl. Is it Cheryl or Cheryl? I want to make sure I'm saying that right.
It's Charles.
It's Charo. Okay.
Yep.
It's Charo. I like saying people's names right. Okay. So I appreciate Charo for your vulnerability and your willingness to become curious and to just be open with us and share. And I appreciate just for yourself that you've been able to share, because I don't think this is the first time. And I think that's great. I think you've come a long way. And I also appreciate Arneth, you know, just for the fact you get up at 3 a.m. I mean, it's more than just that, but I appreciate that you're coming. I appreciate, you know, you see such, you know, beauty in like Randy. He's a really great guy. Like I went to Las Vegas for a retreat, and Randy's in Vegas, and, you know, he and I met in person at a meditation circle. So I, you know, I just appreciate you showing up as you are, bringing yourself with your weirdness forward as I've done. And I appreciate Mike for hosting these calls and, you know, always opening and facilitating these conversations, for being here to hold these things, to make it a safe and sacred space for all different kinds of people. And I'm really curious just how this is going to go, like where this is going to go. We all kind of expect these big results, I guess, being in the masculine, but just to kind of let go and say, let's just let it play itself out. So I'm curious how that's going to work. And I will pass it to Christina.
Thank you. Yeah, great gratitude for everyone. Definitely, it's just a blessing to be able to find a space where like these conversations, like aren't being had. I've been like dueling with all of these concepts like in my head for a really long time. And all of the concepts seem to like go together with me. Like we talked about giving and receiving, and that's the easiest way that I think about the masculine and the feminine energy and the balance. And yeah, yeah, it's just good stuff. And then all of the like little branches that go out from that. Everybody needs to know there's so much more. Uh, awareness is good. So 5 people, 50 people, 500 people, it's good stuff. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Christina. Yes, and I appreciate it. And I say this often, and I appreciate this as kind of like a reflection of the law of correspondence, is that I appreciate having the smaller groups. And for some reason, I just feel like it loses something when it's like a big event or a big thing, because that's you know, that's not, to me, that's not what's going to get her done. what's going to get her done is having these kind of real conversations. And I appreciate, I really always appreciate being in a space where everybody is contributing and everybody's playing their part and everybody's kind of in tune and going with the flow of the conversation. So I really appreciate having that ability to do that tonight with all of you. And what I'm curious about is to, I'm curious about why I was not able to get my slideshow open tonight. And when I go back and I edit this video and put that up there, I'm curious to see what comes up for me while I'm editing that, because I'm going to appreciate, which is new for me. I'm going to appreciate that I couldn't do that, and I'm going to reflect on the law of correspondence as I'm editing this to find out, okay, well, what was the reason? Why did the spoon jump off the counter in that incident? Yeah, so I'm curious about I'm curious about what I'm going to discover about this material as well too, because even though I've been working with these concepts for years now, I'm discovering new things all of the time. And I'm curious about what I'm going to discover as I'm putting this presentation together in the future here. So that being said, next week I will be releasing a recording for the Law of Rhythm. I'm going to be recording that with my my ministry colleagues. So I'll be looking forward to sharing that with all of you, and you'll get to know the people that I collaborate with a lot, and hopefully bring that group in here and that group together for some deeper collaboration as well as we move forward in our journey together. So thank you very much. I'm going to sign off right now.